but basically, dude, we'll kind of run through how we got to this point.
You and I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, how long you been a GNC owner?
I've been 5 years now. I opened my first store 5 years ago, and then I opened my second store about 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I'm 5 years at the last day of September. 28th. Actually, 28th, which is Nicole's birthday, ironically. And I did not know her at the time. Yeah.
What are the chances?
Yeah, right. So, how was the transition from the last place you were at was the colleges, right?
Yeah.
So you were there for how long?
I worked in higher education for close to 25 years.
Were you coaching the whole time too, or no?
The majority of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened to make you decide to invest, call it $250,000, into your first GNC store?
Well, I love GNC, and I was shopping at GNC all the time by my house out on Wilmington Island in Georgia. And I got to know the manager really well, and he was a super knowledgeable guy. I really respected him. And one day, I used to go in there all the time and buy things, but sometimes I just go in there just to hang out. My kids used to be like, "What, Dad, why are you in GNC for an hour and a half and you come out with like a bar? Like, what are you doing?" And I was just like, I was always intrigued by it, by the supplement industry. But I did spend a lot of money in there too, but I got to know the manager, and the manager, finally one day I walked in and I looked around and I went, "Can you own these places?" And he goes, "You can." And I went, "Really?" And so next thing I knew, I left and I started doing the research, and I was like, "Man, I can have one of these places. I can actually do this." And did the research, called GNC, did the whole scoop, went out there, interviewed, they accepted me, and
after how many trials with the first location?
Believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this part. I got turned down 10 times. 10 locations got turned down.
Which means you picked a spot, said, "Hey, there's a vacancy here. Here's my game plan." And GNC was like, "That game plan isn't going to work for us."
No, they trust me. I did get a point where I was starting to get a little frustrated because I felt like I was never going to get a store.
10's a lot.
It is a lot, and it was always something, parking, or it was always just something, demographics didn't come together. And I'm not saying they weren't legit. It was just they wouldn't accept it.
Yeah. So, on the 11th, would it be? Or 10th?
It would be the 10th.
All right. So, on the 10th, Pooler, Georgia was signed and being built, right? And you opened up in what? When? What month?
I opened up in March.
All right. So, March.
Yeah.
So,
March,
it could have
March
been
26th, to be honest.
It could have been just didn't matter where the location was. Could have been that you ended up with the right one. But what happened that first year? Or actually, what happened that first 8 months?
So the first 8 months, I made $985,000
in total gross sales.
Total gross sales.
Starting in March.
Starting
in March.
Starting in the end of March.
So,
yeah.
To put that into perspective, guys, the average store at that time nationwide did, I think, less than 500 per year.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that these are seasoned stores, because if you don't know much about retail, let me just put this in perspective for you. I started this in 2014, like 5 years ago. This location, never worked in a GNC, no background, came out of a bad spot, needed to do something else, was totally lost. But I'd shopped at GNC since I was a kid, right? There was just a local one in my town. And I've done my own research on the supplements for a decade, And so I used my real estate background and basically scouted out a location. But I probably worked the first 60 days by myself, open to close, didn't know how to hire anybody. But I saw about 4 customers a day, guys. 4 customers a day. I would be watching Netflix because, man, sometimes I just had to turn off and take a break and relax because I was for surely overwhelmed. And then Connor, my first employee, bothered the heck out of me, and I figured out how to hire him, and then I had some help, and it started to take off. But 4 customers a day, by the way, for like the first 3 months. What's 900 and some thousand averaged out? I mean, that's like 45 people a day.
Yeah, we
At
were doing-
least.
Yeah, we were doing somewhere around 60 a day.
Yeah. So
On average.
that just puts things in relative terms because mine's a pretty normal story. And so did they average out your first year and give you the $1 million store award?
No, they didn't actually. My DFO was actually advocating to give me the accolades for that first year, but since I didn't meet the $1 million, even though it was in late March, I didn't meet it. I didn't get the accolade that year, and then the next year I did 1.2 million in sales.
1.2 million.
And that was my best year ever.
Yeah.
So that was
to date even.
Yes. Yeah, that was my best year. That was a crazy year. I mean, if you think about that too, you're averaging $3,000 a day.
Has to 365 days a year.
That's what I'm saying. So it's when you do the numbers, it's just almost
Staggering.
It's staggering. It really is staggering.
Staggering. And keep in mind, like normally in a store like that, you would double staff with overlap, but you pretty much run solos, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I do like to share, which makes I think my story even a little bit more interesting, maybe than most, is I cashed out all of my retirement. I cashed out 25 years of my retirement in higher education, and I put about between $200,000 and $300,000 on credit cards.
That was probably a pretty strategic.
I ended up having like the credit card stack. I still have it, and I'll never forget that I actually put I rubber banded it together. And this credit cards. I had like 6 American Expresses, and I had like, because I didn't have any money to do this. I needed to have enough capital to build enough revenue, and to build this store. And all I had was my retirement. And it's rough, but it's over $200,000 on credit cards.
And so for somebody that doesn't know, that's not really a normal way to finance something. I actually do financing for a
it's a
major
terrible
living.
way to do it. I would never recommend anybody ever do this.
But it's possible, and that's a pretty cool story though. And what were you like, rolling debt on top of debt on the different credit cards, or were they all just open?
Well, here's the thing: is what happened was that each one, since they're a business credit card, each one was actually was interest free for a certain amount of time. So I put them all in a spreadsheet, and within that spreadsheet, I knew when my interest started on every single credit card. So the goal was to pay the credit cards off
In order of
before
priority.
the interest started.
Yeah.
So, and the crazy part about this is I only paid interest on one credit card.
Really?
That's the crazy part after the whole nightmare. Well, and the other thing that people don't understand or get this too is I kind of put it all on the line to open my GNC, and I actually lived in a really, I could say shit, right?
Shitty.
Yeah. Terrible hotel room, which was like $15 a night, which was in the shady Ramada Inn. And I lived there almost, every day. And when I was open to close my store solo pretty much for the first almost year. So, and then finally I got a really bad apartment, which I still live in.
Yeah, I know.
But it's the reason I appreciate you asking me this, because it means a lot to me of where I came from and where I'm at now. And I really appreciate everything that's happened. And I think things happen for a reason. And the fact that I was able to do what I did, leave higher education, leave a really good job, and leave benefits and everything, and take a risk, live in a damn hotel room, and open a GNC.
At what, 49?
Yeah, well, it was
48?
47.
47?
Yeah, 47. And put it all on the line, which
Literally.
is,
on the paper, on the line.
People would never, I would never recommend doing what I did.
Especially being an economics professor, right?
Right. I looked at the numbers and I was like, this is just insanity. And as soon as I opened the door, I just went, please. Because I figured out that if I didn't make at least 20 grand a month, I was not going to make it.
Yep.
Clear. I'm not talking margins. If I didn't make 20 grand clear, I was going to be up the creek without a paddle. And so it was, I'm bald, you know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of lost hair. It was a lot of lost sleep. It was.
Didn't you accidentally press order all?
Okay, and there's another story to this too. So what people don't understand about our ordering system is that you can go in and do a reorder. Well, if you just push automatic, it reorders everything in the system, and that a typical order for my store, I don't know about yours, can 6,000 to 8,000,
Sure.
10,000 maybe.
Bi-weekly?
Every week.
Oh yeah, you're on every week. You're on every week.
Every
yeah,
week.
Yeah.
So what people don't realize though is when you push all, it turns a $10,000 order into a $70,000 order.
Based on recommendations.
Yes, based on previous sales
Yeah.
and everything else.
Problem is the algorithms
So-
don't work properly.
Well, unfortunately, by the time they didn't catch it in time.
Yeah.
So everything got delivered. And you understand when you open a store like this, they basically bring in the boxes and they put 400 to 500 boxes in the middle of the store, and then you set it up. So think about this. It's a full store, and I just got a whole shipment. I think it was around $65,000 worth of product.
And that becomes due all at once because you didn't separate in the order, which is the whole conundrum.
Which created more financial burden, significant. I mean, I knew I could probably sell most of the stuff, but I didn't have the capital to build, and so I had to put more on credit cards.
And that was actually done by an experienced manager, not the new guy, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she was still a blessing, though, wasn't she?
Yes. Yeah, I was fortunate. I had a really good a manager who was. I learned a lot from her. I mean, she was a GNC. She'd run 2 or 3 GNC stores. So when she joined me, it was a blessing, and I learned a lot from her. So very thankful for that.
Yeah. So I met this guy like 5 years ago, and we were at a Cellucor event, which is a vendor. We were just hanging out, having fun, and for some reason, this dude and I just gravitated towards each other. And a lot of it probably is just that I tend to gravitate towards people that speak their mind, and I pretty much do that. And we hung out quite a bit at the convention. And this isn't like the first time you came out and like helped out at another person's super sale, huh?
No, I've done it. I've done it a couple other times.
But
this is the furthest I've come. Though.
Yes. And so we were supposed to have one more owner out here, but he wasn't able to make it. But I'm super grateful that Steve has, because I know life is super busy, dude. But some of the bonds that you get with some of the dudes at these conventions, and it's like you like feel like you know their store and their deal. But I feel like when you really, get together, and now we're in Minnesota, which is just so freaking crazy.
Well, and you've got an amazing story too.
I do.
I mean, it's not like you're picture perfect.
No.
I mean, and I think
I started this place in a sober house with 14 other dudes, and like I said, never owned a business, was just getting my life together. But I had tremendous support from my mother, my roommates, and other owners. Like Zach's not in the system anymore, but he was a big help, and he was a Minnesota guy too. And so we're in Minnesota, and I wanted to get a chance to sit down and let this guy kind of tell his story, because when I heard the story of a 47-year-old dude who's really probably like one of the smarter guys I know, and you're doing the creation of your store on credit cards, it made actual sense. It was just such a risk that I was not expecting to hear that. And I put a lot on this, and I was fortunate enough to have the means to do it. And then all of a sudden it's open, and then you actually have to do it.
Yeah.
And that was I remember on the phone to my mom, I was like, I literally don't know if I can actually do this. and you just figure it out. And so that was, the best part. And living well is a GNC motto. And at that particular time, that fit with my life. Like, that was every single thing I was doing. I was trying to be a better dude. I was trying to be healthier. I definitely did a lot of unhealthy and self-destructive things. And so, and now this is grown to be a great store. Get more than 4 customers a day. Thank goodness. And like, it's a family business. My girlfriend takes it over, and she's grown, and she kicks ass, and it's cool to see. And it's just so much fucking fun, dude.
Well, and I talked to Emily on the way up when we were traveling here today, and I said, I feel like we made a connection. I feel like you're like family to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't travel here and come here and help you with the store if you weren't like really important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, and so, there's not a lot of people in my life that I respect and that I would do these for.
Yeah.
And you're one of them.
Yeah.
And so I cherish that friendship.
Absolutely.
And I do. I
Me
mean, it's
too.
being honest. Like
Yeah.
it's, I mean, and because I'm a protective guy too, because I've been screwed over by lots of people in my life.
Yeah.
And there's very few people that you can really trust in your life. And I do. I feel like you're one of those guys. for
Yeah.
me. Like
And-
I do. I feel like I feel like I could say run my store and I could leave and you would run it and you would be legit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and, yeah, no, it's and life moves so fast, dude, and you know, there's certain people that you tend to just make time for whatever reason, and I, you know, I'm glad that you say you respect me, but like I look up to you in a lot of ways too, because everybody has a story, and yours resonated with me, and it's not exactly like mine, but it was a pretty typical American story of an awesome journey, but like not perfect at all.
no, not even close. No, I
But
I made
being
plenty
able
of
to talk
mistakes.
about that and share that and just being really open about it is something that my generation doesn't really experience all that much with the older generation. It just doesn't really happen.
It's
And
true.
so, you know, we had a common ground being like in the same thing, and I think that opened up the gateway. But it's awesome that you came out here. I'm super grateful, and I just like I'm super grateful to hang out with you.
I am too. I mean, that's that's why I'm here. That's why I told Emily. I said I'm excited to be here. I mean, I love this stuff. I mean, I live for this stuff. But to come here and be able to be a part of this with you guys and to help and just I know it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I just
You're gonna be able to meet my mom, dude. She's gonna be here tomorrow.
right. I mean, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I just
And she's
I
like
was-
my important lady of everything, right? Like that's
Right.
like mom, you know.
and I was so excited just to be a part of this, and that you want me here, and then just then to be honest, just the great thing is Emily was able to come with me and be a part of this too. I mean,
Heck
so
yeah.
she's getting to learn me about. I mean, this is parts that she hasn't learned about me.
Yeah.
And I'm not shy.
Yeah.
I mean, I share stuff.
Yeah.
But it's
You got to see it live sometimes. You got to be there for it. You know, she might not be working behind the register, but she'll be able to feel the experience.
Yeah, she's gonna be like, oh, there he is. That's how he does it.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
man.
I appreciate it.
I love you, man.
Love you too, dude. All right, I like it, man.